Hey, welcome to the Peep Show Talk, edition number 17. And I feel very lucky today in that we have Mike Watson from Watson's Wagons. You may have seen him on YouTube, you may have seen him on Facebook. And so, anyway, we're going to talk to him in just a minute. So, if you enjoy these videos, go ahead and like and share. If you don't enjoy these videos, just go watch something else. Just go watch something else. I don't have time. I don't have time for you. You know, it's not you, it's me. Just go away. Just go away. I don't need your negative comments. If you'd like to support the channel, you could possibly, appreciate if maybe you bought one of my books. I have my Army Chaplains gear book, and I also have my War Pigeon book, which is about the Army Signal Corps Pigeon Corps, and I list actually all the Pigeon Corps gear. And I'll put the link to that in the description. So, okay. Hey, Mike, how is Pennsylvania today?
It is probably some of the nicer weather we've had in a while, mid 40s, almost 50 degrees. So yeah, pretty cool. I'm wearing shorts.
Nice. So anyway, how did you get into military vehicles?
Well, I wish I had some long drawn out, exciting story about, grandfathers and things like that. But, I do come from a long line of military veterans. Every generation that I know about has served not only in the military, but also in combat. And I was able, I'm the last one in the line of people that were able to do that. And, but it was never a driving factor for me to get into the hobby. Now I've always been a model builder since I was a kid. 135th scale armor was my preference. I built one or two Jeeps. I'm an artist. I just love to build things. I've been turning wrenches since I was probably, I want to say 13, starting to help out with my father and changing a water pump on an old Le Mans, actually. So, but yeah, I've been turning a wrench my whole life. Well, just to save you a whole bunch of a backstory, about 10 years ago, the summer of 2012, okay, I was coming home from work with my wife. We both work at the Defense Distribution Center in New Cumberland. It's one of the largest military depots on the planet. And, but we were coming home and we were pulling into the neighborhood, and I noticed up on the driveway what looked like a Jeep, an old Jeep sitting in this driveway without a body on it. Chassis looked nice. It was painted black, it was clean. I could see the motor. And I told my wife, I says, I think that's a Jeep, a Willie's sitting up there. So I drove her home and I turned around and I went back up there and talked to the guy and introduced myself. His name is Ralph. And we've since developed a friendship since then. But I was just blown away by what he was doing. The chassis was sitting out there. It's a hunting Jeep that he uses up in the Bedford area in Pennsylvania. But he had brought it home to work on it and kind of give it a little cleanup and a little tune up or whatever. So I'm looking at this Jeep sitting there, and it's pretty, he's got red on there and black on there and fresh new tires. And he had the tub in the garage, and he was repairing the back corner of the tub.
I know that very well right now. That's what I'm putting on my slat right now.
He was using sheet metal from an old file cabinet. To do the work. And so we were just sitting there talking, and I was watching what was going on. And I was like, man, I have got to get me a Jeep. I've always, I kind of knew I wanted one, but I didn't realize how bad I wanted one until I saw his. And I thought, well, this is really simple. I'm used to working on cars with electronics and doing diagnostics and things. And I've had old cars and stuff when I was younger, but the Jeep was just something about his project hooked me. And I kept nagging my wife about it and telling her how much I loved it. I wanted to go up and look at Ralph's Jeep and see how he's doing, and all this kind of stuff. Well, for Father's Day that year, she bought me a Jeep. And it was I'm trying to remember, 46 it was 46 CJ2A, and we bought it from Brad and Mindy Gates down in York. They own Vintage Jeep Specialties off George Street there. They're also part of our MVPA group out of Gettysburg. Wonderful couple. See, anyhow, Heather's like, you know what? For Father's Day, we're gonna get you a Jeep. So for $800, I came home with a pile of rust.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was crapping in tall cotton when I got that thing home. It had a hard top on it, and we got it in the garage, and I could not stop looking at it and hugging on it and touching it and feeling it. And you know how it is when you get your first one, you're just pumped up and excited.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the first project that I was able to get my son involved to work with me on the vehicle. He was just as excited. And only one of my kids, I have 3 boys and I've got a daughter, but my youngest boy just had this, he has a knack for turning a wrench. So we got he had one of his friends come over, handed them a couple of cut off wheels, grinders or whatever. And we started chopping that sucker up, man, and getting the hard top off, and then working on the body and things like that. And so it was just it was that process, that finding it. It was sitting in the garage, because once we got the top off, it started to look more like a wartime Jeep to me, right? We got it off, even though I didn't know nothing about CJ2A, MB, GPW, none of that stuff. I didn't know the differences, any of it. All I knew is, in my eyes, that is going to be a World War II Jeep when I'm done. So I put a flag over the hood, took pictures of it, and just, I was so pumped up. And I didn't get that project done until after we built this house and moved here. It took that long. And we didn't get in this house until 2017.
Okay.
So,
like 5 years, 4 years.
Yeah, a lot of years went by. There was a period of time where I got the chassis done, the motor and everything. I ended up putting it in storage while we were going through the build process here. And so the poor thing sat for the longest time. And, but I suffer from the same thing that a lot of guys do, and that's new shiny stuff, right? Well, a squirrel walks by and you're like, oh,
Yeah, bright shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, they grab you. And so I ended up, and Ralph, as a matter of fact, had he said he had a Willis MB sitting on the property where they came from, just rusting away. And we worked out a deal. I think I traded a gun or something for it. And he ended up bringing it back eventually. And it turns out that thing was like a 1940, I think it was a 42 GPW. And it was in bad shape. I mean, the body was split in half. It was, and so I had built a platform and had it sitting outside. I didn't know what a GPW was. But all I knew is that my wife did not like that Jeep sitting there because it made my neighborhood look like a junkyard. That's what she kept telling me.
Mm-hmm.
So after much pressure, I decided I was going to go ahead and sell it, not knowing what I had. And I let it go for nothing. And a guy drove down from New York and bought it from me. But before he did, I did salvage a couple of combat rims off of it. I've got the original grill hanging on the wall over here, and a couple of other small parts. So I actually had a real wartime Jeep and didn't even realize it. And I let it go. Then I ended up with another CJ that was drivable and clean and red. Then I ended up with a Willis pickup truck. Had a couple of M38A1s that I got and started working on, and just I kept getting excited about new projects and ignored the original thing that tugged at my heart. So I learned a lot of lessons over the last 10 years about where I want to put my time and energy and what the priorities are for what I'm doing. And unfortunately, I turned that thing into a beautiful MB2A. It was a CJ2A, but I made it look like an MB. It turned out beautiful, but I couldn't have done that without a lot of help from a lot of people in the hobby. vendors and stuff. I mean, if you look behind me, I don't know if you can see the brown thing hanging on the wall back there. Is it clear enough in your picture here?
Below the heater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see something.
That's the end of the original crate that the body kit came in. And I got that from Ron Fitzpatrick Jeep Parts, and he had that shipped over here. And I had to sell the truck to pay for all the parts to finish the Jeep. So I ended up I had to move some stuff to pay for some stuff, and it's just a constant shuffle of things. And so I kept little mementos throughout the years of the projects that I worked on, whether it was I have all the original grills from the other vehicles that I had. They ended up with something different. I'm laying like that. I got one of each wheel that I have, including an M151 rim. But it's just, I was hooked. I'm hooked. And I figured, at least mama knows where I'm at. I'm not out chasing women and drinking booze. I'm investing in the hobby.
Right. If you're out gambling, you're just throwing money away. And in this case, at least you're getting there's something there afterwards. I know of someone, Chuck Roberts, who has quite a few different vehicles over in Illinois, and his wife, her name was Lydia. She had a rule, and she said, I don't care how many vehicles you have, but you can only have one project going at a time. You can only have one project in the queue.
Yeah.
So
that's hard.
So it's fine. You can get more projects, but you have to finish the last one first. I think that's not too bad advice, really. Although sometimes, stuff just pops up at the wrong time, and you got to kind of put it in line. But
my friend David Pizzaferrato, a lot of people know him. He owns Weeby Webbing and does a lot of good canvas work for people. He constantly gives me crap about my M37 not getting done, and threw a gauntlet down on me and challenged me to get working on it. And I'm like, okay, no problem. When the holidays are over, we'll get on it. And all of a sudden, this GPW shows up into my life.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. I had to grab it or someone else would.
Right.
And what scares me about that, some kid will get that and chop it up and lift it and do some weird stuff to it. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm all about saving history the best that I can. So
what do you have right now that's done, and what are you working on?
I have nothing that's done. The two vehicles I had that were finished, I sold. And that was the Willis, that I did, that everybody knows about. Then I also had an M151, A2. I also sold that. I did that because my daughter went to college. She's down in Auburn University. So I made a decision to move those vehicles and put my hobby on hold for a while, and to make sure that she's able to go to school and that I can assist her. Not paying for it, but we're assisting her. And are you still there?
Yeah, I still have your audio, but I don't have your video.
My wife is trying to call. Hang on.
Okay, I wonder if you dropped. I think you dropped. Maybe he'll come back. I'm going to go ahead while we're waiting for him. Tell you what, I'm just going to go ahead and pause the recording. Okay, we're back. We had to pause for a second. He got a phone call from Kitchen 6. So, okay, so you're talking about how you sold some vehicles to support your daughter going to Auburn.
Yeah. So, so I made a decision that I had to make some priority changes in my life and focus on the family and take care of her and just make sure that I'm able to support her the best that I could. So we sold the vehicles, paid off some debts that I had to free up money. And so I had the income to be able to send or help or whatever. And I'm glad I did that, because we've had several situations where I've needed to make a trip down there to help her out or get her vehicle brought back up to repair. I mean, you name it. Things happen in life, and they just do. So, but anyhow, we're in her second year, and things are better and calming down. And so I've been able to re-engage a little more with the hobby. During that whole period, I was going into a new job. I used to go into work every day on the depot and stuff, but now I have a new position where I'm allowed to work from home, at least until they decide to let us back. So it's just been easier, and leaving that old job and was, people don't know the amount of stress that I had in my life because I was a supervisor. I've been supervising people for, 30 years in the government. Right. But I had some really tough times. And so I needed to get out of there. And so that was having an impact on my ability to function here too. So, you folks just started seeing a little bit less of me, and I sort of petered out. But, after things started settling down and I understood what the job was all about, and she's doing okay. I had grandkids come along for the first time in my life. I'm a grandfather. So family first, hobbies come second. And that's just how it is. And I think a lot of guys understand that.
Okay, we see a bunch of you kind of see some teases of some projects behind you. You may want to, why don't you tell people what's behind you there?
Yeah. Well, the GPW is in the house garage. This is a separate building that I built. This is a backup L134 motor that I have. And it's funny because when I sold the other Jeep, I had already had this in the machine shop. Totally forgot about it because my mind wasn't on the Jeep anymore. So the poor guy's been sitting on this block for like a year and a half. Now, luckily for me, we know each other, and I had worked with his son and everything, so he was cool about it. But I said, you know what, we got to get this block back. It's a really good block that I picked up from Ed Smiley, and he has an all original GPW. But I bought this off of him. We cut it 20, went 20 over on the piston or the cylinders. Got some new guides in there, some hardened seats. And they've been ground properly, 30, 45, 60. And we'll have some new valves coming. The crank is sitting there. It's already been turned and cleaned. So, this is going to sound funny because people think I'm a hoarder, but this is going to be a backup engine. So if the GPW fails, then I'll have something to throw in it so I can still drive it while I get that repaired. So I didn't want to get rid of it. I've got another block on the floor, and I'm just going to use that as a coffee table or something, or corner table, and put some glass on it and a light. But back here is the M31 chassis that's sitting on the ground on the wheels. Got the cab back there. The block is stripped down, and the rest of it is just junk. Freaking mess parts, camo nets. I got a tank decoy up there in the bag that we use for when we have little events and stuff, which I haven't done in a while. But so this is kind of where I live, hang out. There's an upstairs to the building, and that's kind of where the man cave is, the office and all that. But yeah, the truck fits in here fine. I built the building deep enough that I could fit a half track in it.
Okay, yeah.
So
there you go.
My neighbors and my wife were like, whatever. I said, So we got 5 inches of concrete in here, and it's deep enough that I could park a full-size half track in here without a problem. So,
well, it's one of those things. If you build the garage, now you got to go get the vehicle, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of someone gives me like a part to like an M151, and I'm like, crap, now I got to go get the rest of it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's now you have your channel there, Watson's Wagons. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you've got I
can hear you.
You've branded yourself Watson's Wagons.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Did I lose you?
No, I hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the screen. So, Watson's Wagons. I can't remember who came up with the idea for Watson's Wagons. Man, it's been a long time ago, but we were kicking around names, and that it just sounded kind of cool, and I stuck with it. And I worked with Carrie Sue, who's the wife of a gentleman that I served in combat with, who helped design the lady and the logo. And she's been put out there, and a lot of the guys in the community have hired her to do their logos. So Watson's Wagons was just kind of a thing. I didn't know that Watson's Wagons was actually a legitimate company from, I don't know, back in the 20s or something, when they used to make carriages, or maybe even earlier, 18, I don't know. There was a company called Watson's Wagons carriages or something like that. And so, there's no relation. That's an old picture there. That's from like, what is that? 9 years ago?
9 years ago. Yeah. That would be about the time you got started.
Yeah. And that's that picture, the chassis sitting on the right is the original CJ2A that turned into the Dog 6 that everybody's familiar with. And how cool it was to get that thing started and running while it was sitting there like that. Now, it made all kinds of knocking noises or whatever. But anyhow, I just, the page has grown. I keep it pretty tight to military stuff or the things that I'm working on. I don't introduce politics into this page. There's plenty of room for that somewhere else. So, this is where I put my stuff. And I figured, well, the one thing I try to do for folks is, I'm going to capture what I'm working on, and you may have seen it 1,000 times, or maybe you haven't seen it at all. But if I screw up, you're going to see me screw up. Then you're going to understand why I screwed up, or you're going to see me succeed. But either way, it's probably more for the new guy that can go in there and just see that a regular Joe like myself can do something. Okay. Now, I did start off in a regular garage when this all kicked off. That's Jeff Matson right there from Frontline Military Vehicles. He's got a lot of M151 parts. Great guy. And so I'm just about doing whatever I can to save stuff and share the history and get people involved and interested. And that's kind of how I've always been. And, it's been a long journey. I've met a lot of people. I've gotten to know a lot of vendors personally, and it's just been a blessing, and the Jeep community. One thing I learned about the Jeep community, there's a lot of good people in it. And, when I was first starting out, I was just a regular guy trying to do my thing. And I met Paul Chiarella. I don't know if you know who Paul Chiarella is. But he's up in Patton, PA. This guy kind of became the guru for the International Flat Fender Club. He was so pumped up about getting people to get out there and work on your Jeeps, or get out there and drive them Jeeps. I think it was drive them Jeeps, and I had work on the Jeeps. But anyhow, it doesn't matter. That was so long ago. But it has engaged so many people all over the world to be a part of the community, even though those groups existed. But the International Flat Fender Club brought these groups together, right? And Lou Ladwig, who's the founder of it, and he's out in Colorado. He told me one time that they would like to do something in the future about passing a baton from one Jeep patrol to the next. And, so if I had the baton, I would drive 15, 20, 50 miles to the next patrol, hand that baton off to somebody, and have that baton travel across the country, and then find its way overseas and go across, and make its way around the planet.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that's a kind of a cool thing to do. And so I know that's probably still on his radar to do that, but it's a great club to be a part of. And there's a lot of good people there, and people showing off what they're working on. But I didn't know that this was going to go where it's gone. right? It was just my hobby, and I wanted to share with people what I was doing. When I started off early on making videos, I look back at those things. It's like looking at my pictures from the 60s and 70s wearing bell bottoms and big collars, because I made a total ass out of myself in these videos. I was acted funny. I did stupid things, and I'm thinking, it was not easy to do. And it took a while for me to learn to just, kind of let go and just
be yourself.
Whatever happens. And like this conversation, it's going to go where it goes. So I decided that I was just going to kind of just capture what I could capture, throw the video clips together, do a quick edit and punt it out there, and, give some people a few laughs. Maybe they pick up something, or, and I think that, I think in some way it adds value to people in the hobby. And so that's all. There's no grandiose thing with me. I buy my parts from everybody. I don't, on the first project I did get a lot of stuff from Ron Fitzpatrick Jeep parts. I'm purchasing parts from Rory Grenier right now, out of Kilroy's. I get stuff from all over the place, and we got multiple dealers here in Pennsylvania as well. So spread the love, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and especially here in the mid-February of 2022, you kind of have to go to a lot of different vendors, because a lot of people are just out of stuff right now. There's just a lot of supply chain issues and things like that.
It's interesting you say that. I actually want to say something about that, because it just happened to me just recently. Part of the order that I put in with Kilroy's was front bumper and the block that goes in the bumper, right, for the GPW. And I think he had the block. No, he had the bumper, but he didn't have the GPW, block that goes in it. But Ron does. So, and this is a situation where vendors are working together to get a product to the customer. So I don't know if they want you to know that, but to me as a customer, it's very much appreciated that we have vendors that are willing to work together, and either drop ship parts for each other or move parts and stuff like that, because there's a common goal in helping as many people like us to get these old girls back on the road. And so, a matter of fact, the top bows that I bought for the GPW is a Ron Fitzpatrick Jeep part, but I got it from Jeff Matson, down here near the river. So, anyhow, it is what it is. I just appreciate that there are vendors out there that are willing to work with each other to help out a customer. So, and I've had nothing but
I think there's a lot more cooperation that goes on behind the scenes. I think they're friendly competitors. So how did you get the YouTube channel going? I think you kind of touched on it, but
well, I don't know. I think I wanted to try to get a larger audience, and to be quite honest with you, I thought it was an opportunity that I might be able to make $1 or $2. And you learn pretty quick that you have to have a pretty large audience before you can even monetize anything. Yeah, and then you got to get people.
You have to have I think you have to have 1,000 viewers. And
is that what it is now? I thought it was 2,000.
It might be 2,000.
Yeah. So
and I'm slowly getting there. I'm at 72. So
so here's the thing. You just don't stop. Don't give up. It took me a long time to get to where it is. And it is what it is. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think I probably make $150 a month through AdSense on this. And I have videos in there that have hit over, 1.5 million or something views, but then I got videos that never went over like 200
Mm-hmm.
views. So I don't know the algorithms, none of that stuff. I really don't care. I just want to put the content out there. And, but what's interesting, now this isn't all just exclusive Jeep either. I mean, I got stuff in here that I've worked on my Silverado, my wife's cars,
Mm-hmm.
and all that. And
Yeah, it looks like you have models in there too.
yeah, I was doing a couple of model kit reviews. I did a time lapse building that Lego there, but I just kind of throw stuff out there to see what sticks. And the interesting one is I did a video on how to change a water filter in a refrigerator in our GE refrigerator, and that's in there. And the comments I get from that is just, I mean, it's crazy. Mostly women telling me thank you for showing them how to change a water filter, the little tube looking filters.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's little stuff like that. I got the man cave build in there. Just, I don't know. I think, in the early days of doing all this stuff, I was kind of going through a midlife crisis. It's one of the reasons why I was having this whole, issue about buying vehicles all the time and moving stuff around and doing a ton of videos. And it was like the center of my world. But I quickly realized after a couple of years of that it was kind of overtaking what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your family. And so, so that's why I calmed down. That's all. It's become kind of a seasonal thing for me now.
Yeah, I saw something. I'm trying to think who I was watching. Maybe Adam Carolla, his podcast. And he talked about how the social media environment nowadays, it allows people who are relatively untalented to become very popular, whereas the people who are super talented and work hard may never get known. So
Right.
it's just kind of like hit and miss about things.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, having people know you though is kind of it is weird. I mean, I've gone to some shows and stuff, and I'd have people walk up and ask me, "Are you Watson's Wagons?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Mike. How you doing?" And
Right.
It's an odd feeling when a person walks up and says hi to you that you don't have a clue who they are. So it is nice, and if people watch this stuff, it's very much appreciated. But again, the goal I've always tried to put something on there that'll help somebody learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's that filter one there. So
okay, got it here.
Yeah.
From roof to foundation, the damage to your home cost.
There we go. Skip ads.
Yeah. So
4 minutes. 4 minutes on changing a refrigerator filter. So you just unplug it and put in the new one?
Step by step.
Okay. Yeah. I use those videos all the time for different things, and they're super helpful.
And one of the things is that all the ladies are telling me when they respond is like, I didn't open the door far enough, or I tried twisting it out or something, or didn't realize they had. Oh, can you see any comments there?
Yeah, I'm showing them.
Oh, okay. So that's the kind of stuff that makes me feel good. You get negative comments too on stuff, and that's okay. And there's people that also offer a recommendation or some advice on how to do something differently.
Mm-hmm. I never get negative comments. I don't know why, but
I'll reach out to your page tonight. How's that sound? I'll give you one.
Gee, thanks.
I'm kidding. Oh no, I get little needle sticks all the time, and it's okay. Just
haters be hating.
Yeah, and that's okay. Show me your stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. Just, show me your video, show me your project. What can I learn from you? And I'll oblige you and watch. But
So where exactly is your GPW project in M37? How long you think? How much longer you think
well,
you have on them? And then are you just gonna finish them and sell them and get another project?
no,
Okay.
no. And here's why, because these two vehicles are pedigree. The M37 is 100% original. Nothing's been bastardized on it. It's all original. It came with everything. And because of that fact, I want to keep it. And, I mean, the Jeep and the M37 are some pretty high sought out collector's items for most guys. I'm doing it because of that, but it's a cool looking truck,
Mm-hmm.
and not the best gas mileage in the world. The GPW, I always said, I'm never going to sell this vehicle. I'm never going to sell this vehicle, but I've never had a legitimate vehicle before like this. It now legitimate to the point where I was able to uncover the hood numbers after 8 layers of paint.
Mm-hmm.
I found the serial numbers on the motor and the chassis. They match. I talked to Tom Walball and ran the numbers through his databases and stuff and found out, that this thing was delivered on May 16th, 45. It was a crate Jeep. That Jeep never made it to Europe. It probably sat in a depot somewhere. And was waiting to go to Japan, or it was sold at a dermo auction or something and ended up on a farm. I mean, who knows? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so
yeah, it's about the same date as my WC51. It's right around
yeah,
then. I was at the Vintage Power Wagon rally, and there was a WC51 in front of me. It had like no markings on it, and I started talking to the guy who had it, and he said he got it from, I think, his uncle or grandfather. It was a family connection. And he
yeah,
said the vehicle was purchased in a crate back in the late 40s, and it never actually entered, even though it came through military auction, it was never actually used by the military.
that's cool though.
And
It's the story, right?
it was like summer 45, I think it was, somewhere in there, maybe July 45, one of the very last WC51 52s ever made.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so it had no hood. It was basically just OD green with no stars, no bumper
Yeah,
numbers, no USA number on it, nothing. It was just a
yeah,
plain Jane. And I would keep it the exact same way too.
yeah. What leads me to believe that this is it never made it to a unit is it didn't have any white numbers added onto it or a star or anything like that. I mean, I went through 8 layers of paint, and the very first set of numbers I came up upon was the light blue color, paint that was applied by the factory, or gray or whatever that color is. So, but because it has that story, because it's original, I'm going to keep it. I don't want to get rid of it. And now you asked me, when do I think they're going to be done?
Mm-hmm.
So if people have been watching my videos, they'll notice I'm accumulating a lot of parts for that thing, not for the purpose of starting to rebuild it, but I want to have everything on hand. So when I do start working on it in the summer, I can just knock it out
Mm-hmm.
and get it done. Now, I didn't do that with the first one. I had to, wait until I had the money and then order the parts. And then a couple of weeks would go by, and, it was this long drawn out process until I got to the point where, like, that's it. I'm selling one of my vehicles so I get everything at once.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how I ended up doing that. But this go around, I said, I'm going to use the winter to collect all the parts. And then when it's time to go to town on it, I will. So in the meantime, I'm starting to work on this M37, and the goal is to get this thing drivable before I start messing with that one. And so that's what I need to do. It's just what I need to do. And that way I can park it in the other garage. This will be plenty of room in here for the Jeep,
Mm-hmm.
tear it apart. But I need to get at least one vehicle up and running, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with the MVPA group out of Gettysburg. They're just all got done building a new museum out there for the World War II experience. And so Frank Buck and family have done an awesome job out there. And there's going to be all kinds of events going on, from swap meets to reenactments to you name it. And I want to be able to participate in those. And what some of the stuff that we do all the time is we drive our vehicles through the battlefields in Gettysburg. So that's going cool. And zigzagging all through there with these vehicles in a little convoy, it's something we do all the time, and we definitely do it every year. And then and have a get together. But I haven't been able to do that in the last 2 years because the vehicles are gone. So I just want to get back into the groove. And with the kids moved out and Gracie's in college and I have more time now, so yeah.
Now, one thing you should do, I had a guy tell me this story, in that he had collected all the parts for his carry-all project, and then he laid them all out in his garage, and he took a picture of all the parts laying there, and then I think he posted on social media, "Hey, I just received my carry-all kit from Vintage Power Wagons." And so I'm gonna get started on it. And apparently they got a few phone calls of other people wanting to get a carry-all kit.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, if you wanna like pay back a vendor, hey, I just got my whole Jeep kit from.
Yeah.
Looks like you're cleaning off the radiator there. Get the GPW markings. My GPW has its original radiator in it. It's the radiator shop told me it's to the point where it's going to need a new core if it breaks again.
Yeah.
But
this one here, from my understanding, the 45s didn't come with a marked up radiator like that. In fact, they probably had less F-script parts on them by the time that thing was built. So, I got lucky with this one because there was a guy that, a couple hours from here, that was selling a bunch of parts his dad had, and his dad had passed away. And I said, well, geez, from what I could see in the picture, I need your air filter, I need your radiator, I need, so we worked out a deal and went and got it. And when I came home and I started looking at the parts, I'm like, I think that's a JPW radiator. Looking at the, the indentations on it and stuff like that. And they had that radiator shop tag on there. I'm like, oh my gosh. So for me, I always said I wouldn't turn into an F fanatic or whatever, but it's happening. And so when I find these little markings, I get really tickled. I just think it's so cool to find the old original markings.
Yeah. And because I had a GPW, then when I got my slat, I was like, oh great, now I don't have to worry about that. And then I start reading threads on like the EC50 bolts and a bunch of other stuff. I'm like, oh my, I'm back.
Yeah.
But
see, to me, that's the discovery and the hunt is the fun stuff for me. I'm the same way with plastic model kits. If I see a tank somewhere or whatever that I want, or if I see something and I want to try, I just, I like to hunt. I like going to antique shops and flea markets and walking around and trying to find tools and parts. And I found a steering wheel for this M37 in Ohio at a flea market.
Yeah.
It was hanging on a wall on the outside of the building, along with all kinds of other junk. And I was like, oh my God, that's an M37 steering wheel. And it was in great shape. So snatched it up, Oh, that was a crazy project there, trying to separate those manifolds.
Yeah, my GPW's radio came from a flea market. I think I paid $100 for the unit. It just, a friend of mine said, hey, it's there at the local antique mall, there's a radio out there. I'm like, really? Yeah, it's it's a Jeep radio. I'm like, okay. So I went out there and paid $100 for it. Of course, I ended up spending $1,000 buying all the other junk that went with it. But yeah, well,
but that's
so with this, you used Evaporust on it.
Yeah, I did, and it worked out perfect. What I should have done on that one is I should have did it in a smaller box, or maybe put some more filler behind the plastic. But yeah, I let that stuff soak, and then manifold turned out great. just like I did with the block. I poured that stuff in the block and put that little window in there. And it's amazing how clean that stuff turned out. And I've used that. I still have that fluid in that bucket. I got a plastic lid over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and,
I've been using one bucket of that for a while also, and I haven't had to put anything in it lately, but yeah, I used it for a lot of stuff like the seat, the footrest, and just all sorts of different things that I would run across. I would just dunk it in there, but you can't do it in the cold though, is my understanding. You've got to you've got to
it
have
needs to be warm.
yeah, and you need at least a moderate temperature. So actually, my Evaporust bucket's right inside my garage door.
Yeah.
So, well, cool.
Yeah, it's the one thing I'd like to learn how to do. I know it's fairly simple, but the electrolysis, and coating my own nuts and bolts.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are things I haven't tried yet that I would like to explore. I'm very basic when it comes to welding, and in fact, I just broke out my plasma cutter for the first time here yesterday. Took that Bubba modified bumper off that GPW.
Mm-hmm.
But a TIG welder, I'd like to learn that. So there's just a lot I want to do and explore and get good at, because if I can do it myself, I'm just like that. I don't want to pay someone else to do the work that I can do myself.
Mm-hmm.
And
so are these shoes going in the Evaporust next? Is that the plan?
I think those things found their way to the donate pile.
Well, the fact that they're hanging out in the garage next to the Evaporust buckets.
How do you like the steel toes I'm wearing? Yeah, they're called. Yeah, this was interesting. Now, this was interesting. When I was rinsing that off and I took a brush to it, it really cleaned it up.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the brush hit it, and so that stuff works pretty good.
Yeah, and I've also used Thermocure, and I ran that in my GPW, and oh my gosh, I mean the temperatures just totally dropped inside the motor, like 10 degrees, 15 degrees.
Now, did it really liquefy? I mean, I'm sure you ran it for a while and then you flushed the system out, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was about this time of year last year, so it was really cold. So I think I ran it probably an hour and a half over a couple different drives.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got quite a bit of junk out of there. So, and in the end, the result was in the, what was reading on the temp gauge, and it was, 10, 15 degrees cooler. So it's actually, I've had no problems overheating with it. So if anyone's having any problems with overheating, I would definitely try and run that stuff through it.
Yeah, I'm sure it melted off a lot of that scaling on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
I will run that through this motor here when I get it done, just to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
But because I didn't hot tank that thing, so I dug out what I could dig out. Now I'll spray it, put some new freeze plugs in it and stuff. But I just didn't tear it down that far. But anyhow,
okay. Well, hey, I know it's getting near your bedtime, so
it's 9:01.
It's what? 9? Yeah, it's 9:01, and you're on East Coast time. I'm on Midwest time, and I'm probably about an hour and a half away from bed too. So, anyway, hey, well, thanks for thanks for dialing in, and good talking to you, and nice meeting you. And if I see you at a convention wherever, and I would love to go do your Gettysburg thing. I've never actually been to the Gettysburg battlefield, even though I taught military history. I've taught the Battle of Gettysburg millions of times, but I've just never been there. So I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, just stay tuned. It's somewhere in I believe early October ish that we do it. But I'll put an announcement out on my page, and I normally advertise that it's going on because there's a back-to-back event that takes place with that ride and then a Jeep show afterwards. The following day, and so it's a good weekend, event. for folks. So yeah, but that information will be out there, and I'll make sure that it's announced.
Okay, great.
Hey, it was really nice to meet you, and thank
Yeah.
you for letting me participate.
Yeah, I hope people enjoy the shows. I mean, really, I view this almost as more of a podcast, and no one really does anything like this. And I think it's good to just meet different people in the hobby and kind of see what they're interested in doing and how they got into it. And through the last couple of years of COVID and things, is that's the one thing we crave is just meeting our fellow hobbyists. And I believe this hobby is really a bunch of people who like to hang out with each other with military vehicles as an excuse to do it. So
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm gonna spend thousands of dollars so I can be your friend.
yeah. Well,
I'm kidding. No, you're right. You're right. And
why am I so pale? I look like a ghost over here.
You do.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
You're like a vaporous apparition.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, well, when you do a Zoom call, it's kind of like that in the beginning. It's like a seance. It's like, are you there? Are you there? So, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this. So, hey, thanks, Mike, for dialing in, and looking forward to new content on your channel. And again, hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Peep Show Talk. And if you enjoyed it, like, share. And if you didn't like it, why are you watching? Why are you still here? You could have left like 45 minutes ago. So, anyway, hey, thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you guys on the next one.